very dear to us, because as Maastricht, one of the things that we have been looking at is area of future of work. And therefore, as we try to navigate the so-called fourth industrial revolution and preparing for it, yes, a lot of times we talk of students need to be prepared, we need these skills of the future and so on. But actually, we don't pay too much attention. Yes, we want students to learn this, students to become like this. These are the skills that are needed, but we don't pay too much attention. What kind of a teacher will need it for that future? So, so we zeroed in on the idea that if we can think of what the future will look like, what the skills will look like, and therefore then what we need to teach to prepare for that future, and therefore then what kind of a teacher is required? What is the teacher of the future? So in a way of looking at where are we now, what skills will be required, then what will it take to be able to build or both policies and in terms of curriculum and other things that are needed to make that teacher be able to help students and young people be able to become part of that. So anyway, that is what we zeroed in on in terms of, and I think we had shared some things, but I'll let Martin to come and first of all say what in terms of the general composition of the team, and then also maybe come through with some initial concept note we have developed. And I think what we should try to do from there maybe is come up with a number of work packages that will be required to be able to achieve that, and what are the various outputs that we'll get from each work package. Then we can also now start seeing how can we start allocating the work to the various people that are here, so that we can start working on the actual proposal. So please, Martin, maybe let you come in.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Katune. Just to take off from where he left it, I'll go through the call just so that we're all on the same page. I want to welcome our guests, let's say co-applicants who have joined us from Ethiopia. And now we feel we have the consortium that we require in order for us to make the application. So I think this is a good time just to touch base on exactly what we have done so far and what we hope to do. This is maybe what Prof is asking me to go through. So let me start just with the name of the call. It's this one, Regional Teachers Initiative for Africa. It's part of the Finnish National Agency for Education, EDUFI. You can see it down here. So they're the ones who are making this call. And I think we were told, I think by Elizabeth, that even though it's a European organization, they have their own rules and their own ways in which they work. And it is helpful that she's here to advise us at least on what maybe we could do to position ourselves strongly for this call. So they're calling it the Call for Research Proposal Window 3, Policy and Practice Relevant Evidence for Teacher Wellbeing at Work and Teacher Professional Development in Sub-Saharan Africa. So just from this title, we know, having discussed it, that there are basically two themes, one for the teacher well-being at work and the other for the teacher professional development. And the focus or the target audience is really the Sub-Saharan Africa region. So we know the Sub-Sahara, all these countries south of the Sahara. So we've strategically chosen Kenya and Ethiopia to be part of our consortium. Just to move through the document so that we are together on it, the object of the call, I'll read it very quickly, is to generate deeper understanding for policy and practice relevant recommendations on how teacher training and teacher well-being at work can be made more effective in Sub-Saharan Africa, ultimately aiming to reduce teacher shortage and attrition in Sub-Saharan Africa. All right. I think we're familiar with that. Just for summary's sake, this summary is speaking to teacher well-being in two categories. One, directly concerned with burnout and you could argue the frustrations and the challenges that teachers experience at the workplace. It's one aspect is targeting that. The other aspect is targeting teacher professional development. So we'll come to that thematically when we go through this. So the size of the grant is 400 euros, 400,000 euros, and a maximum amount of 800,000 euros. And in terms of the date and times, it says here online webinar in English on the 11th of October. So that's past Helsinki time. So I suppose this is when they were launching. And then, of course, we have a deadline date on our side. By 25th of November, 4 p.m. Helsinki time, we should hand in our proposal. All right, so I hope that's understood. So those are the basics, and we were all familiar with it, so it's a bit of a repeat. So coming to this is the summary. I think this document should be with everybody, so I won't go through the details of it. But this first paragraph really explains or tries to summarize as much about what we're doing as possible. It says the Regional Teacher Initiative for Africa aims to support African countries to improve the education and training of teachers and to make sure that the schools have enough qualified teachers. So this is achieved through policy support in areas of teacher governance and teacher professional development, and will contribute to delivering quality education for all. Now, based on what they're saying here, they've again itemized the two thematic areas. We see that the outcome is really about policy impact, and the research that we're doing needs to be applied research which would impact somehow on the policy. And we probably need to be prescriptive in the way in which we go about our proposal so that it's quite clear what the impact would be. Karanja and his office have been very instrumental in bringing us together, partly because they are big stakeholders of this outcome. This is the Ministry of Higher Education in Kenya. We presume the same for our partners. The co-applicants are equal partners, and they should be just as much of an impact on policy on their side and the Ethiopian side as there is on the Kenyan side. So they give a bit of a background on this document. Again, allow me to just pass through it, partly because we can read through that. These are the overall objectives of the call. The first objective is to generate new evidence on effective teacher policies and policies to address challenges related to teacher governance, teacher preparation and teaching, and attractiveness of the teaching profession in early childhood education, primary, lower secondary education in sub-Saharan Africa. So that's the main, you could say, objective of the call. But the second one is to strengthen research capacities in sub-Saharan Africa. The third is to disseminate findings so that the evidence produced can inform policy. So that's what I was talking about a bit earlier. And then number 4 is to encourage partnerships of universities and research institutions, both within Africa and between African and European or institutions. Why I read through this is partly because when we are writing the proposal, we have to obviously constructively align our ideas, our solutions, our methodologies to these outcomes, at least these objectives. And that constructive alignment will just make sure that we are on point when we put it together. Now, the call themes. There are 2 themes we had discussed. I'm not sure if we should have a discussion on them now again, but I'll just mention our discussion in summary. The first theme is this one: teacher well-being at work and teacher retention, shortage and attrition. It looks at the frustrations, the challenges, the burnout factor of teachers, which are many and rising because of the socio-economic and cultural economic reasons on the ground. So that's what it looks at. We didn't choose this one. We chose the next one, which I'm now jumping to. We chose theme 2, which is here, teacher professional development, to focus on. The call wants us to pick between one or the other. It didn't even allow for a mix, but someone had mentioned, one of us, I think it's Rael, that these 2 are areas that are integrated. So even if we chose this second one, we can't avoid theme 1. They're somehow intertwined. So I'll just mention the reason why we chose this as opposed to theme 1. I'll also mention what this is about. Teacher professional development we understood to mean the different ways or gaps, let's say, opportunities that teachers have for developing themselves, not only now, but looking at teaching futuristically or looking at learning spaces futuristically within the African subcontinent or even sub-Saharan Africa. And we were asking the question based on, you could say, the history that we already have of teacher professional development and the current situation, what would the future look like? So this was the trajectory we're looking at time-wise. And we then problematized to ask, what does the teacher require today to prepare them to be relevant tomorrow? And that had a number of issues that came up, which are socioeconomic, cultural, economic, technological, and one could say the issues around also variability of situations that we find ourselves in, context. So this is the general area that we thought we would have many opportunities for us to put together a solution that would be at least useful to policy. And policy oftentimes needs information that informs it of what can be done going forward. So this is the one we chose. Again, I'm not reading, but we can go through the document. Yeah, I'm only summarizing so that we're together on it. I'll pass by this. It's quite well covered. Yeah, so then comes the parts which are the expectations from the projects. One of the key things that keeps coming out on this proposal is the issue of linkages, that they want us to make sure that we have a consortium of stakeholders. After going through it and discussing it, we resolved that the stakeholders are not individuals, they're institutions. And the lead institution that we have chosen is Professor Gatune's institution, Matrix. I can't pronounce it very well. Maybe you can correct me, Gatune. Matrix institution is the one that we're using as the lead. And then we have another 6, which is what they have prescribed, institutions that we are working with. So we're putting the lead applicant and the co-applicants as institutions. And we are partnering in this initiative. This is how we're looking at it. Yeah, so feel free to interject or ask questions, I think, as I go. I'm just summarizing very quickly. So they're looking at high quality research for development, and they're very keen that both the, first of all, they're keen that we either do this at a national level or at a regional level. We opted to choose to do it at a regional level, and that's why Ethiopia has come in. So we have Kenya and Ethiopia. In terms of scope within the countries, I suppose this is what we'll define in our proposal. But we also need to start thinking about maybe the gaps that present themselves uniquely in both countries and how they'd impact on policy. And then, of course, they are very keen that the distribution of load and even funding for both countries should be equally done. So there's a sense of equity in that sense. There's no partner that is primary and one secondary. It's actually equally owned in that sense. Another thing that we noted was that with the regional approach was that they are interested to see that we work with a European partner, and that's where Elizabeth comes in with her organization. Again, I forget the name of it, but these are the issues that we're trying to put together within the consortium to at least meet the requirements of the call. We have in our regional approach, yeah, we probably need to think about the strategy. So this is a proposal that we had written, very rough draft, and we shared, I think, with some members, but now we have new members, we'll share again. I'll come to that next after this, but for now, let's look at the funding, which is here. I had mentioned that the grant proposal is between 400 to 800 million euros. However, I think one applies for either the 400,000 euro fund or we apply for the 800,000 shilling euro fund. So that's probably a discussion we can have. We haven't fixed it, but the rules So they have rules which are specific to the lead applicant. When we chose Professor Gatune's institution as the lead, it was based on these rules, that his institution best met these requirements. Yeah, so they're fairly straightforward actually. But one of the major things was down here, where it says that they should be directly responsible for the preparation and the management of the project, which means they have experience for that, and they should have managed at least one grant of public funds that has already ended, but not longer than 5 years ago, of amounts of 50% of what we are applying for. So that is a somehow limitation. So it allowed us to identify his institution as suitable, and then dispose of financial statements certified by an independent body, audit or statutory commissioner. These statements must not be older than 2 years. So this is, I suppose, evidence of the above. So his institution, again, is instrumental in that way. Yeah, so they describe also the requirements of the co-applicants over here. I think we all meet this. You can always go through this document, but we generally fit into this. And then, of course, comes the rest of the team. We have associates who will be involved. We need to talk about them as well, to at least mention who will be associated in our research, and other stakeholders as well. Individual participants representing the organizations should provide their CVs, but they're quite specific that they don't want more than 7, I believe. Maximum of 7 key research staff members are advised to attach CVs. So they penalize you for not, if you give more, I think. And if you give less, again, you also get penalized. So we probably need to make sure we have our 7 CVs. Of course, the CVs should reflect our capacity to work on this project or to do what we're saying we're going to do. And here the number of applications and grants per applicant and co-applicant. Okay, there's a statement on that. Associates, again, here we need to identify associates. Contractors, we need to identify contractors. These, they say government grant recipients must award contracts to contractors. And possibly we need to include this kind of management or this aspect of the research within our proposal, just how we will work with contractors. And then they talk about eligible projects, okay, and geographic coverage as well. This influenced also our choice of Ethiopia. Yes, so this is now the sub-Saharan countries, the 18 sub-Saharan countries. So yeah, so that's the end of the document. So that's good. The next thing I would do is to talk about our group, and then I'll talk about, of course, how we're going to go about the actual proposal. So our group is here. But for now, I'll invite you to just comment. If there are any comments or questions, particularly the new guys from Ethiopia, if you're having questions, this is not a bad time. We can make it discussive, and then we'll move on later to look at how we're going to go about writing the proposal jointly. That's what we want to do next. So I'm opening up the floor to anyone who would like to ask questions or to discuss anything or to suggest something. Feel free. Yeah. Anyone who would like to go ahead, feel free.
Yeah, Elizabeth, this is the hand.
Hi, yeah, I'll just maybe make a couple comments just because I'm not going to be able to stay with you for too long this evening. But first, just to say thanks so much for the initiative that was taken and also for Julius's support in drafting already a concept note, which I did have a look at, which I imagine you'll be discussing. Just to say a few words on the consortium dynamics, because when we come to the stage of drafting the proposal, we will indeed have to justify the consortium, so justify the selected partners, justify their complementarity, what they bring to the project, in addition to obviously the individual research profiles, which are quite important, and we do need to attach individual CVs as well, from what I've understood. So I think the advantage of having Obrial in the partnership is that we could provide, in addition to the project management, elements where we're very versed in EU project management and things like this, but But moreover, I think on the dissemination and policy impact side, we could be, I think, instrumental in scaling results. We're coordinating a number of African regional or continental-led initiatives in the education sectors, higher education in particular. In addition to the partnership we have with the African Union Commission and regional organizations like the Inter-University Council for East Africa, etc. And one thing I noticed in the evaluation criteria, and I do think it's very important to look at the evaluation criteria, which are also on the call website, the EDUFI website. They do stress policy impact, and they also stress dissemination and upscaling and potential regional approaches. So I think there we would be happy to play a role. We leave it, to the researchers to flesh out the research methodology and also to do the more nuanced needs assessment. But when it comes to scaling for impact and policy, I think we would be happy to help formulate some parts of the application. And that is, good. There you have the criteria up. So they talk about the consortium between European and Sub-Saharan African institutions. They talk about reference to previous projects, etc. And then they talk about how the proposal responds to the aims and the impacts. They talk about implementation and the capacity of the consortium and the researchers identified to implement, scientific merits, etc., and cost effectiveness. And so, but I just wanted to say that when we talk about sort of the tangible policy and outcomes, we're happy to fill in there and serve that role. Second of all, I just wanted to say that it's very important, I think, to be, precise in the aims and objectives. And when we get to the proposal, perhaps that's something to look at, because we're framing this around resilience in the teaching profession and its ability to adapt and innovate. And I think it would be very important that we keep that coherency throughout the proposal and even maybe cite specific areas. I noticed that the twin transition was mentioned, innovation in online learning, digitalization, and how this can impact the teaching profession, etc. So I think the more we can have a focused offer, the better. So nothing that tries to do everything in one project. Those were just two kind of initial points I wanted to make, one on the consortium, but also on, the emphasis we need to place on the policy impact, and also how we need to design measures within the proposal for policy impact, and then second on the focus of the proposal. And sorry, one last point I would make now that I have the floor. The budget is actually fairly big. I think these are 18th month projects. 400,000 to 800,000 euros is a considerable budget for a project that is primarily research focused. We run projects that are capacity building projects that have comparable budgets with 3 times as many partners in them. So I think this is a generous budget, and so we do need to then see that we integrate the appropriate activities for promotion and dissemination and scaling and policy impact, so that it goes beyond just being a research proposal with reports. It also integrates activities, whether they be workshops, whether they be focus groups, whether they be whatever, to show that there's an effort being made to scale and promote results. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So I know I've brought to the table a lot of issues that probably you're going to come to, but I wanted to make sure I say them before I have to leave.
Thanks for that, Elizabeth. Yeah. Anyone else who would like to add on something? Anyone who has other ideas? We've heard what Elizabeth said. I think that's quite clear and also quite detailed, which is great. We'll write minutes and hopefully it will capture a lot of what you've said. Floor is open. Anyone else? Even questions on what we're talking about? Because this would be technically our first meeting as a consortium, and there might be questions. Prof. Gatune, maybe do you want to say anything at this point before we move on to looking at what we need to do next steps?
No, okay. So to me, I think, okay, you have basically laid out what is required. But I also just wanted to say that I think when we say 7, we need 7 partners. The CVs have to be 7. I don't think we have to see which CVs we give, because it depends. The CVs we give does not require, it can be, I guess, 1 CV from each partner. But I think the CV will be the ones which address best the way we structure the focus, the objectives. As Elizabeth had said, we really need also to be very clear on how to focus it so that it's not all over, because I think always you can never address all the issues, and I think this is where maybe we need maybe to, before we decide how to work together, first of all, just to see if we can again look at, because we had floated a concept note, because this was basically a big idea. For me, I think it can be more useful if we can be able to see how to focus what we really want to do. And if we can do that, then we can create some work streams and know who can help where, and then that can finally help us where we'll get the CVs. But for now, I think we know the partners. We already 7 partners. That's good enough. But then let's try. Maybe what you can do, Martin, is bring about the concept note. We look at it and we have an input, and then we see how we can sharpen it so that we are more focused, as Elizabeth has indicated, which I think also is something I'm very concerned. I would like at least Elizabeth to chip in there. So maybe, Camera, you can just go. Let's just discuss the ideas that have come so far so that we sharpen that first.
Okay. I'll take us through it. We had 2 concept notes, but I'm not sure if we settled on one, or which one we were leaning towards. Which one would you suggest we go with, Gatune?
I thought it was the one on feature. Which one did you do? The one different. To me, the one on feature of work is where obviously I will lean on to the feature of teacher, that building the teacher, the future of the teacher of the future.
Yeah. Okay.
Or both of them are on the same.
Yeah, both of them are on the future. This heading anyway is the same heading, but they were
the same heading. Maybe you can quickly just summarize the concept, how they are different.
All
I'm
right.
not too sure.
Okay.
Remember.
Let me read out this, and then I'll read out the other one quickly. So here we think this study examines how teachers' education can be transformed to equip educators for the demands of a rapidly evolving world, focused on future-ready.
Martin, are you sharing anything? You're not sharing. You're sharing the call.
Oh, I see. Sorry about that. Maybe I share again. Sorry.
Yeah. And as you share that, well, it's good also to acknowledge that there's a place for the associates, Elizabeth. I don't know how we treat them, because we already have the applicants, but how about the associates? Where do you place them, and who could they be? Maybe you can also help in that.
Sorry, where do you place the ministries or the
associates?
The associates. Yeah, I would associate the ministries of education, both in Ethiopia and in Kenya, obviously, to the project, but demonstrate, a clear role for both entities in not just in the research in terms of their convening power and ability to help map stakeholders and things like this, but also in obviously the policy definition, policy recommendation, and scaling phases. But I think it's perfectly, if you all agree, it's perfectly, I guess, acceptable that the ministries would be associated to the project, and we can also support with the Ministry of Education in Ethiopia if needed. Does that answer your question, or?
No, I think he's asking more broader, because I think the associations are beyond the ministry. Because if you're talking of the future of the teacher, the people, everybody interested in reforming the education system, it's kind of a stakeholder, and there could be technology companies that are interested in certain ways of technology. There could be private sector companies who are all very interested in. The private sector is very interested in education, because there's always a complaint that you don't have the skills. So the call allows to have 7 applicants, the 7 key partners, but it's also a place for associates. And I think you also saw, you can also contract them, because I think and to me, I think this will come, once we decide what we want to do, we can now say, these are the kind of people we need to bring on board to achieve that policy uptake, to achieve that dissemination, to achieve all the other objectives for the uptake. Yeah. And then you can see, because they can be contracted, because it's so, you saw that you can have people who are associates, but at one time you can contract. They don't have to be applicants, they don't have to be on the, but I think it allows for you to contract other people.
Yeah, I think that it will probably be to our advantage that we have associates that are directly linked to the research. So we want to demonstrate through the consortium, through the core 7 and the associates, that we have the capacity to do this project. We have the capacity to conduct the research, and we have the capacity to scale the results as institutions, and that the CVs that obviously we put forward have the research competency to contribute specifically to the research. I think in nominating and listing associated partners, we should make sure that it's fit for purpose. So I wouldn't just list, any entity. I would list entities that would have a specific purpose for us in the research or in the dissemination. That could be, an association or foundation for teacher training in your country. That could be an industry body. That could be a students association. I mean, whatever you think is appropriate, where we can actually then demonstrate how we're going to utilize them in the methodology. I think if you just list associates and don't then integrate them into the proposal, it doesn't look very good in general.
And I agree with you. And that's what I'm saying. For now, we don't even need to know who the associates are. Once we decide what we want to do, and we focus on the questions we want to answer, and we create various work streams for that, then we can know, for this work stream to work very well, we may need to bring somebody else. They will come out, the kind of associate we'll need will come out once we have
I see your point.
Clear idea what we want to do.
Yeah, no, you're indeed right. It may be advantageous for us to list some key stakeholders that we will associate at the stage of the proposal, just because it shows that we've thought through not only the methodology, but our what is needed to implement. So for example, you could say, when we're conducting focus groups, we will be working through X association or with X actor. And I think that is helpful in making the proposal more tangible. But it doesn't have to be fixed in stone. And I think we can, if we're going to subcontract, we can also identify that at later stages.
Okay. So this is it. Maybe Martin then.
All right. So that's a pretty good debate. I think that clarifies some things. Okay, so we had 2 approaches, but they were kind of similar. But again, they were not exactly the same. So concept note 1 was a study that examines how teachers or teacher education can be transformed to equip educators for the demands of a rapidly evolving world. Both of them are like that, because we're looking at the present, even the past, in line with the future. Focused on future-ready pedagogies, that's concept note 1 uniquely. It focuses on what pedagogies are sort of future-ready and curricular frameworks that are useful, and the research aims to identify practical pathways for developing adaptable, resilient teachers who can maneuver today's challenges including technological advancement, environmental sustainability, and cultural relevance. So this is in some ways a bit of an explorative exercise, maybe to discover what works and what doesn't work based on models and pedagogies and systems that are in use already, but would be useful going forward. That's the kind of study that this one is looking at. It tries to concentrate on transformative technologies or ideas, and the study seeks to enhance education's impact on human development across East Africa. This emphasis on the impact of human development gives us the opportunity for connecting with policy making and providing the kind of outcome that the call is looking for. So that's concept one, concept note one. I hope it's understood to be more explorative and maybe you could say, investigative in that sense. But this one, concept note two, is a bit different. This proposal investigates how teacher education will evolve to meet demands of a rapidly changing world. That part is similar, aiming to shape a model for developing future-ready educators. So this one is very interventionist in the sense that we're trying to build a framework. It's focused on exploration of pedagogical reforms and cultural modernization. And the study will lay out a framework for addressing critical educational challenges in East Africa while enhancing human development and societal resilience across the region. So in this option, we're really looking at some sort of, let's say, ethnographic type study or preliminary study that will inform an interventionist approach where we develop something, a curriculum or a framework which informs curriculum design that we can implement as, you could argue, a solution maybe, or an outcome which can be tested for its efficacy and to see to what extent it actually meets cross-cutting issues or themes like technology, environmental awareness, and cultural relevance. So they're the same thing really, because it's really scientific inquiry that is concerned about the readiness of the teacher today for the future. It's really a study on that, both concept notes. But the second concept note is more interventionist, whereas the first one is really more, you could say, prescriptive, but explorative and trying to see what works, what doesn't work, and making recommendations based on that. That's essentially the difference. But we've written down an introduction just to explain the rationale and the justification for the ideas. We look at the historical context of teacher education in East Africa and the modern challenges and the role of education in the fourth industrial revolution. That's the future. So what's the impact of what we're doing now on what the future we're going to be in? We look at cultural and technological adaptation in education. This it has come up very strongly post-COVID and during COVID itself. The issue of cultural utility and usefulness of, let's say, learning online, and the technological impact, which COVID somehow ushered us into a new age because learning was disrupted in East Africa, and it brought up these kind of questions that we try to address in this section of the introduction. And then we look at the redesigning of teacher education for resilience and innovation. So the idea of resilience introduces the need for historical context, partly because East Africa, as we know, we're challenged with resources, particularly infrastructure. And this infrastructural challenge is not something that can be solved at individual or institutional level many times. So the argument of resilience comes up, that what happens when you have no power or when you have no access to the internet? What happens in people who live in marginalized areas where some of the technologies of the future will take time to get there? So how resilient are they, and are they going to be greater disadvantaged by what's coming in education and the kind of disruption that could take place? So we're kind of trying to think of redesigning teacher education with resilience as well as innovation in mind. So anyway, those are things which we will discuss. So we have 3 research questions, and I'm looking at option 1, but we also have 3 research questions on option 2, maybe I should also put that up down here. This. So option 1, the 3 research questions are: what are the key challenges and stakeholder dynamics currently affecting the resilience and the adaptability of teacher development systems in Kenya and Ethiopia? Number 2, what are the anticipated societal and technological trends over the next 5 to 10 years that will most impact education, and how can an ideal East Africa education system align with these to support a competitive and culturally rooted society? And the last one is: what pedagogical and curricular changes are essential to preparing teachers for the fourth industrial revolution, and what roles should policy and stakeholders play in supporting these transformative pathways? All right, so this is the study, which is explorative and based on discovery of what pathways we can follow. The interventionist one asks these questions. What kind of futures does Kenya and Ethiopia society aspire to, and what is the role of the education in realizing the future? That's question number 1. Number 2, what does the twin transition of the fourth industrial revolution mean for skills needed to stay competitive, and what are the implications for primary and secondary education systems? And number 3, given the implications of primary and secondary school systems, what skills and qualities should future teachers need, and how can teacher development programs be designed to meet these needs? So this third part here, this third question here, is trying to speak to the kind of interventions that we would like to test or even experiment with. So these are preliminary questions. Again, nothing's perfect, so we want to actually work the proposal and see if we can come up with a methodology that would be guided by the ideas that we're thinking about. Essentially, we're looking at things as they have been and they are now, but looking forward. So we gave a brief account of the type of research design that we are thinking about. Stage 1 in this concept note 1 is a situational analysis of education and teacher development systems. This is really a systematic review of the literature that would give us a sense of what the situation is. That's what this methodology is about. Stage 2 would be foresight, exercise, and scenario planning for future educational systems. So here we are much more constructive. We're trying to build a solution based on our findings, which we can always test. But stage 3 is exploring pedagogical innovations and curriculum development pathways. Again, this can be test-driven, but the idea is to, again, be somehow prescriptive in trying to find possible solutions based on our findings on the earlier research. So these stages are interdependent, and they're also progressive in that sense. Okay, so that's a kind of 3-stage mixed method approach. We also have a 3-stage mixed method approach for option 2, although this is more interventionist. We start off with a situational analysis of the education system and teacher development, but this one I think is more ethnographic, where we work with different case studies, and there'll be some either non-participant observer study going on in stage 1. But stage 2, we get into exploring future trends and potential scenarios for education. So this is, again, we probably use an action research method to build a curriculum or a framework that we feel reflects our findings from stage 1. And having built that, it's again very much data-driven and research-informed. But when we've done that, then we get into a series of more of tests. So here we're looking at reforms and actions needed for future-proofing education system. That's the third stage. But we now test the findings, or whatever it is that we're using as an instrument, to see to what extent it works, and whether it provides us with, or whether the research confirms that it's going to achieve our questions or our outcomes, our goals. yeah, so that's essentially where we've reached, and that's kind of like what we are proposing. These are very initial ideas. We'd like to hear from the Ethiopians very much. We'd like to hear more from Elizabeth and others. So it's a work in progress, but we only have up to the 25th is the deadline. We've given ourselves a deadline of 17th of November to try and have it ready to take into account delays. We can discuss this. And the last part of the meeting will then be for us to show you how we plan to co-author the document. That's the last part of the meeting. And we have this sheet that we put up, which I'll take you through, just to show you how we will co-author the document. It's the last part of the meeting. But on the framework, and you could say on the proposal, feel free to comment. I'll invite Gatune. Maybe he has ideas he can add to this, but I'm inviting everybody just to weigh in and see what we could be thinking of and what you're thinking of as well. Welcome.
Okay, I have nothing really to say myself because I guess some of this I've seen and I'm already quite biased because. So yeah, I just want other, because if we have put these ideas together, let's hear the other people on how we can sharpen them. Because if we can really be able to come up with the key problem we are trying to address and the key research questions that we would want to address. If you can get that and nail that, that would be something we have achieved today. So probably maybe we can have the other people come in and just reflect on what you have presented.
Okay. So welcome. Feel free to.
May I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Abdi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Really, what is already presented is really an amazing, and it is very appreciated effort. And I really enjoyed the two concept notes. And what I realized from the presentation made so far is that the two concept notes presented have their own very important ingredients to come together and make a consolidated final proposal by integrating relevant issues from both concept notes and in decide on one. And some of the issues, for example, if I want to mention, the first introduction part of the first concept note is by far promising than the second one, but when I come to the issues it entertains, the second concept note has also some input that must be inculcated in the first one. And in doing though, I can say that it is possible to have one consolidated and properly integrated concept note or proposal to be developed. And what is done so far is really amazing, and I'm really happy to have such an experience, and we can contribute from our side what we can do. And the already mentioned ideas are really interesting, and this is what I want to raise. Of course, if I get time to read both concept note and try to point out the key issues to be entertained, I will manage my time and do my part as fast as possible and share my concern in detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abi. Thank you for that. That's very insightful. We're still open. Any comments on what Abi has said, or Gatune, or even Elizabeth, myself? Anyone who would like to add some knowledge or suggestions? We may have maybe. Yes. Go ahead.
Martin, maybe. Well, I know this time was for the visitors to speak, but as a policy actor where I sit, I still kind of think about the end product, what we desire. And I keep on hitting on one thing, that the ultimate output to us would be that kind of a framework that we will kind of take care of the curriculum and the pedagogy aspects. That is the curriculum for the pre and post teacher training, as well as now these other transformative pedagogical approaches that will take care of the evolving context now that we are in, that is the AI competency for the teachers, the climate responsiveness, the cultural. So that's what we are looking at, so that we can be able to replace what is already now seemingly not working in our context. So I don't know how you are pointing out this now from your perspective, so that we can end up having this framework or a product that will take our teachers to the next level. Maybe I'm just thinking, I don't know how you're taking care of that.
Was that directed to me, Karanja?
Yeah, of course, all of us, and the concept we're creating, just
yeah. Maybe Katune can respond to it. I'm not sure.
No, yeah, let's discuss as we think, because for me,
Yeah.
really, I'm not sure whether to what extent we want to be prescriptive or exploratory, because sometimes we think we already know what the future will be, and we say we'll need to do this and this and this and this, and therefore teachers will need to learn AI. It is possible that AI might replace the teacher completely. So for me, I like the exploratory approach, because then that allows us to explore. But again, I don't know how comfortable other people may be with that, or even people who evaluate, because sometimes you can go too far ahead, because the people who also write this kind of proposal and calls, they may have certain expectations. You might run too far ahead and find that now you are even losing them. So for me, that's what I would say. If I come in, I not coming having come from teacher, professional development, and so on, I might be so much into this future of work, future of things that yes. So for me, I'm more into exploratory. I'm not sure to what extent how we should balance the prescriptive aspects and exploratory aspects. So for now, yeah, let's just continue reflecting, I think, rather than me to say anything.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks very much. The last part of the meeting then is this one, where we now need to start authoring. I think when I spoke with Karanja earlier, he had really suggested that we should start the authorship of the final document in a way that is constructively aligned to the call itself, so that we today is the 5th, but we start writing what we can argue is the final document, let's say from today. That what was my understanding.
Martin wanted to come in.
Yes,
Well,
go ahead, sir.
this is the stage you're leading us to for discussion.
Yes.
Is kind of a stage where we really know exactly how the whole should flow.
Yes.
And I think there are two. There's a suggestion coming up here.
Yes.
And this suggestion, it's not a bad suggestion. Maybe we could. I thought we can continue just brainstorming on it.
Okay.
Abby has just pointed out, I think, this concept. If we can find a way of merging them, I think also Karanja has pointed out that. Yeah. And for me, I think I also agree. The two separate, they look heavy.
Yeah.
But are there elements maybe in the two that we can pick and the lighter to give us what we want? Remember, exploratory methodologies are used maybe to unearth. And I think that's a good intention, to unearth what the status of status quo depending on the question which we will sharpen for this.
Yeah.
And then the other concept is more of intervention.
Yeah.
Maybe at our level we could, because intervention also can give real situation on how things are and how, because this is now teacher development, and if we have intervention related to teacher development, I think will give us a good data for us to be able to project and say, given this, then what comes in, and projecting now across the technological world and projected trajectory in terms of the technology, and so that we can place the teacher favorably.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we need to. That's my, because Abby is like suggesting you should have some time on it to look at it and see how it's coming out and what is so important. Remember, if there is any data collection, then we are Ethiopia and Kenya. Maybe this is where now we need to collect data or to implement the research. And therefore, what fits in Ethiopia, we need also to agree. Can we have one, because we are talking about a teacher, and the studies actually said to have a bigger impact, not just an impact which is East African and even beyond. That's the quality research which we need to strive to attain. Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe because before we go to the other document which requires now action, and the action means we are actually sure of what we want to do and how we want to do it. Yeah. Remember, we've just gotten new members who are actually trying to understand the concept. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we needed to brainstorm more and get maybe what the team that has joined to get their perspective, what they think. It may not be even aligned to the concept which we have, but there could be something which can be brought forth, and we see an opportunity. This was based on what we have discussed in the meetings which we have had. But given now this concept and what we selected, the themes that we selected, we need also to find out whether the team thinks that there's also an opportunity to other teams that we left out. Yeah. And then we come to this concept and say, how then, this is actually the gist. How then do we go about it? We pick one or we fuse? And what kind of activities are we projecting to come out? It is from this discussion then we can now go to the other document and have confidence that we can even give each other roles. And because of having that common understanding, we can actually be able to. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Prof. Yeah, one of the another difference between the two is that in this approach here, we were saying we are looking for, you could say, new phenomena that could emerge from the ground and would use a methodology that, let's say, here what's proposed is transformative, sequential, mixed method, but an approach that would allow us to discover new phenomena that possibly could inform the intervention that we come up with. That is part of what this kind of stage one is doing. So this is where one could say we're in the classrooms, we're with teachers, we're either interviewing them or we are watching them in action to try to discover the phenomena that would inform us. Whereas in this one, the approach was slightly different. We were looking at it this way, that the phenomena is known and reported about extensively. So we are looking for trends, or we're studying the literature to see what it is in the literature through a systematic review of the literature. We're calling systematic transformative design approach, where we're trying to discover now what is really repeating itself as a constant problem or challenge or frustration or gap, which is clearly emerging from the literature. That's what this stage one is more about. It's a slightly different way of going about the research, but both are somewhat valid. One way we could merge them is that if we are exploring or trying to hunt for, let's say, the problem, if I may use that word, in stage one, then in stage two, we can craft or begin to craft what we consider to be the solution based on our findings. It could be one way of merging them. In stage three here, we proceed, I think here we're saying stage three, yeah, it says exploring pedagogical innovations and curriculum development pathways. So it's explorative. So even in our prescription, we are still exploring the different possible solutions that might exist based on different alternatives that are there. Whereas in the interventionist approach, if we're merging or choosing or trying to see how to work, we're saying now, let us, having come up with what we can call our solution, let us now run some experiments, or you can say tests, to see, these can be quasi-experiments in the classroom, to see to what extent it's working, to what extent, or what is not working, or you know, if there's any invention or procedure that we can come up with in the framework that we can implement, then we can raise that as a method actually for whatever outcome we're chasing. So this one, which is interventionist, ends up with a product, whereas here we end up, I think, with a product also, but it's not really interventionist. It's more coming out of the findings that we of possible products that actually work. Some work, some don't work. Some are used, but they don't really have good impact. Some are not so much used, but they're having high impact. And this kind of approach. So there's a sense in which there are points. I think I will agree with Abi and also Prof. What you've said, that we can merge them, but maybe we need to just think about it more specifically to see how can that merger work and how can we build the design of the research.
Yeah, Martin,
Yes.
there's something that is cropping up.
Yes.
And I don't know whether the others are able to see this, particularly the people in the teacher education. And I think Prof. Nyonja here and Abi would follow up this. The idea is not to lose the humanistic approach of the teacher, but to retain it actually. But improve this teacher to be responsive of the future needs and environments. And that's why I'm thinking actually one of the theories which we could base our study is the humanistic theory, because what are we looking at? We are looking at building up the teacher, equipping the teacher, but also in a way progressing this teacher healthily towards meeting the future needs, so that we don't have a situation whereby, as the Prof has said, there will be any intention of having the teacher being replaced by technology. Because I think if we went that way, by the way, and looking at even who are sponsoring this call, they are very protective of the teacher, by the way. And the whole of the stakeholders, including the UNESCO, they put it very clearly that there's no way technology or any other form of evolution will replace the teacher, because that one would have replaced the whole, the designer, because the teacher at the end of the day, at whatever level, must retain that ability to design the learning experiences, right?
Yeah.
Of the
Right,
learner.
right.
Yeah.
Right, you are.
So that is where our aim should be to improve the teacher, but also protect the teacher in a way that they don't lose that power. So I think those are things that we might need to look at when we are looking at the designs that we might come. I'm just thinking as a teacher anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, thanks.
I agree with the ideas, but what I want to stress here is that if we are just in a position to come up with a framework that will help us to provide professional development in a meaningful manner and intended to capacitate the teachers, of course, we have to at least test the framework and check whether it is really working or not, and try to suggest the policymakers to consider it at the end of the day. And if it is the case, what I really think of is that if we really merge the two concept notes and take the best out of it and finally follow the intervention-based model of research, I think we can involve many of the issues we have raised in two concept notes, and finally we can have a very consolidated and standardized proposal, and that's what I want to suggest. Of course, while integrating technology, as one of my my colleague raised, we have to be careful. And the technology is not in a position to replace the teacher. Rather, it should support the workers of the teacher, and we have to think in that way. And I agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Abi. Thank you very much, also Karanja. Yeah.
Maybe I cannot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go
Because
ahead,
usually,
Prof.
because the way I see it, we're using this foresight approach, because today we are here, but these are the trends we see, and these are the potential for scenarios, because there are changes in values, there are changes in technology, there are changes, and so on and so on. And these present many scenarios.
Yeah.
And the scenarios you choose, that's where you make a choice, because the features are many. So you can have a feature where there's no teacher, you can have a feature where there's a teacher, and that is where now you make a society as what kind of feature do you want? You might say we want this kind of feature, because you can also influence the future, even technology, how technology is deployed, how technology is used. So in a way, you can even before, either you can decide from the word go, we want to constrain it, or you can say the future, the exercise of doing these future scenarios and exploring the futures we want, because there is always the probable futures, there is always the desired futures, and what. And we have a saying this is the desired kind of future that we would want. And this comes from engaging stakeholders, engaging other people, and coming with a foresight workshop, and then saying, given our societies, this is what we want. This is what we want, because in our education system that we want for the future, we want to integrate education, we may want to integrate values, we may want to keep our languages there, and we might want, and because of that, this is the kind of a system that we'll have. And this kind of a system will require this kind of pedagogical innovations there. And therefore, and because of this, we will require this kind of policy interventions to be done, this kind of policies to be there, to be put in place, so that then it works out to moving us toward that future system that we want. And that future system is then which determines the future teacher, the teacher that we would want. Now we can now say, because this is what we want, this is now how we should develop our teachers. And this is how we should move from the way we are developing teachers today to that teacher that we want for the future, such that so that's the kind of a process to me I see. It's a bit not as restrictive, but it assumes that because of the whole process is participative and we are letting the stakeholders, it will come out naturally that we still want to keep the teacher because we want to keep certain values, because we say education is not about building skills, it's about building a city, about building a person. It's about building what? It's about maybe retaining our past, about giving us dignity. It's about certain things. Because even assuming that machines could do everything that we need to be done, a machine can cook, can repair, can what? We will still need we may still say we still want an education system because this is what we wanted to build. It could be where we create culture, it could be where we do certain things that even AI will let it do whatever it wants to do. That means that because we tend to think that education in a narrow sense is to give us certain scientific and what skills because we believe we'll need those skills. But assuming yes, we could create super intelligence robots that could do everything. Would we need still education system? Probably yes, because there are still certain things that we would want to do. So I don't know to what extent, but I also don't want us to go into that because I don't want, because people who make this call have certain expectations. I think they are still more rooted into the present. So I don't know how you balance the present and trying to do those exploratory things. And but again, as I said, yeah, some thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with you. Perhaps I think there are some very key variables that are appearing in the concept that we have, the two concepts. These variables are very important. And the first thing we need to ask ourselves is what is teacher development? Then we ask ourselves, are there a model for teacher development? Right? This could actually appear in terms of literature review, that the models that have been used and tested across. Then in the two sites where we have Ethiopia and Kenya, we can actually establish through exploratory what methods of teacher development are in place and are they effective? How are they carried out? Perhaps in our literature review, and that's why I was thinking that the intervention part of it, where we have different methods that have worked elsewhere, we could maybe just separately implement them and test and see what comes out of it. And implementation means we will have either to design this intervention carefully, using the best practices that we may have established, and then we try to roll out in some schools and observe, are they effective, or how do we panel beat them to fit now the future teacher we are thinking about. This capacity building or teacher development models could even involve using of technology, and we can test them and see and say where is the gaps in this methodology, and this could give us now the policy talking points, which we can now be able to roll out and influence maybe stakeholders towards maybe embracing some of the best practices that we have tested on the ground. And therefore, what I'm thinking is that if we find that teacher development processes or teacher development practices has certain dimension, including curriculum, innovations, has also certain dimensions such as pedagogical and all that, then these are areas which we can actually pick maybe questions for research. We first explore and do a lot of good literature on around that, and we come up with the best models, and look at these models and how we can customize given the literature or given maybe the exploratory studies that we have. We can actually redesign them to fit the context, and we implement them as initiatives, and observe and collect data, and now come up with our findings on how we can move forward. So the exploratory part of this concept is still very important. And the methodology in this concept that we are proposing for exploratory phase, we just have to see how we can fuse them given variables that we are actually going to perfect them. The call is very important, that the themes that have been floated in the call are very important. We just look at them and be able to define exactly what do we want to do in terms of, because if we pick teacher development theme, then we need to understand what is it, the concept of that, and the models that are coming out. And then we can now go on the ground and find out which one are being used and to what level are they effective. Then there we can actually redesign another one and introduce as an intervention. This will include even technological models for teacher development. And then we roll out and have now what we have discussed, some of the discussion that we are making here could come out in support of our findings, and also be able to be used to recommend policy direction. That's what I'm thinking. And that's why when I said that these two concepts needs to be fused in a way that we have one thing that we are talking about, and something which is suitable for the context, the two contexts that we are going, the study will be rolled out. Then that way, when we agree, then it means that when we move now to the other document, we know what to populate and what to bring on board so that we complete the study proposal. That's that. Maybe back to Kamala.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's quite comprehensive. Thanks for the contribution. Anyone who would like to respond? I saw a hand going up for Jane, but she seems to have left the meeting. She had her hand up. We haven't heard from Haile or Zainab or Rial. So I'd invite you if you'd like to say anything, or suggestions, comments, questions, anything. Just to
Okay.
yes. Go ahead.
On my part, let me try to because that's been our role and information has been summarized.
You're very soft, Rial. Haile, sorry. You're
Okay,
very soft.
all right.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now you're clear.
Okay. Good. I was a bit quiet because mainly our contribution and comments have been summarized well by Elizabeth. So the role we will take up will be with that intention. And as we go forward, we will contribute to the relevant parts of the proposal that require our inputs. But my intention is to leave or to give deference to the education or teacher education experts to have more say in the technical aspects of the proposal. That's why. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Zainab, Rial, any comments or suggestions? Anything? Or anybody else who would like to add to? We heard what Prof. Nyonje said, which was quite detailed. We've heard from Karanja also giving us the role of the government as a stakeholder. Anyone who would like to suggest or ask questions? If there isn't any, I'll just move to this last section. The last section is not really long. It's maybe a few minutes just to explain, but it's an important one because we need to have some actionables from this meeting. And one of the key actionables we thought is to start the co-authoring of the document. So the co-authoring is happening on pages where we can all contribute. That's really what's going on. But this page or this link, which is in the group, but we can share it again, has information relating to the call. The first link, this one here at the very top, is simply the proposal, the one which we went through, the call itself. That's what this is. So anyone who wants to reference that, this is it. The proposal that we had earlier put together, these two, I think I'll add them to the top here so that we also have access to them from this page. This page has everything. To understand what this page is doing, this page is really trying to curate or collect all the items that are mentioned in the call. In total, you can see it goes up to number 21 here, about 19 items on this list that we need to collect. And it's different people, different, you can say, applicants who are supplying information. But the idea is to use this one. This page is linked to Google Drive. So when we click on these links, we open up Google Drive and we're able to see what a folder where we can load our things. The first half is not linked to Google Drive, it's linked to Google Docs. Like this first one here is linked to, if I just open it here, I'm just clicking the first one. It's linked to, it says here, type in the chosen theme. So it's linked to this document that gives us the theme that we're choosing. I'm just opening it clearly so we can see. So this is where we come and put our comments on the thematic area. We chose theme 2 as opposed to theme 1. And we probably need a justification, a rationale for both countries. And both countries need to be given equal weight. So the representation from Ethiopia and Kenya needs to be equally stated within our choice. So that's what this one is. And this one is, zoom in, is actually just an empty page, but it's focused on the rationale for theme 2 as our choice. Elizabeth gave us some ideas on how to go about that one, I remember. This second one, which is also required, is our details. And we need our details. We had prepared a form, which again, I'll open here. Let me open it this way. This form, we've probably all seen it, but everybody's details need to be filled in here. The columns and rows, do is fill in your name, and then these columns simply ask you for your number, your phone number, your email address, your areas of research, basic information about ourselves, our institution, so that we can use this information in putting together the proposal finally. But we need it from everyone. This will be helpful in putting it together. So people who have joined who are new, they can add their names to the bottom down here. That's really the idea, and according to the columns that we have. So just fill in this one. That's item number 2. Item number 3 is our CVs. So if you click on something like CVs, like this link here, it opens a folder. This is the folder it's opening on Google Drive, and you simply put your CV here by uploading it. That's all. The CV should obviously focus on the interest, on our proposal interest, so that it strengthens the case for your participation. That's really the only thing on the CV I think that would matter. But if people have other ideas, feel free. Then we have this one, number 4, submit the status confirmation. So this is what the legal status confirmation, registration documents. It's coming from the call. The call wants the lead applicant to put their legal details here. Okay. Again, it goes to a Google Drive, a folder. You just open that. The 5th item is submit prior grant documentation. Again, this is targeting the lead applicant. The lead applicant is supposed to upload information that shows experience in managing a public fund, a minimum of 50% of the amount that we're applying for. We also need to agree on how much we're applying for. I remember in our discussions, we felt it might be expedient to apply for the higher figure, 800,000 euro, because there are 2 countries, and even as we are fleshing out the scope of the project, we were not clear on it. But if we apply for the higher one, that's the most we can get. We have to cut our proposal to fit that. But this is a requirement for the lead applicant. Then we have financial statements. Again, starting early will help us so that we're not caught out on the last minute. Submit audited financial statements here. Okay. Again, it's a Google Drive folder. Again, targeting the lead applicant, submit the capability to co-finance 10% of eligible expenses as per the EDUFI terms. All right, so this is needed as well. So it's somehow something for the lead applicant to consider. Co-applicants. Co-applicants are the rest of us. Confirm at least 2 co-applicants, 1 from Europe. Okay, so Elizabeth comes in there. 2 from Africa. We have, Kenya, Ethiopia. Co-applicants, not lead, who are eligible under the EDUFI requirements. And we need to submit here our eligibility proof and regional affiliations as well here that are relevant to this study. Okay. If we have questions on this, feel free to ask. Number 9 is submit signed mandate statements for co-applicants here. So the mandates that they're asking for is each co-applicant must sign a statement that they're willing to participate and will be fully responsible for their role within the call or proposal. Number 10, submit exclusion verification statement. So this is just to verify. They're saying submit exclusion verification statement. I have to put a link for this. It's missing. This would be on a Google Drive. It applies to the lead applicant, the lead and co-applicants. Sorry, both are. They need this. They need us to verify that we are not in exclusion situations that prevent us from taking part in this call. Maybe you have another contract which prevents you from doing this work, but we need to write explicitly to say that we're not. I think that's what they want. I'll put a link here which is missing for that. This one I've grayed out is partly because we don't need to worry about this. There's no submission. This one is simply a checklist. So we will check to indicate and confirm no duplicate applications have been submitted or there are omissions. If this is having a tick, it means everything above is fine in terms of the submission. There's no gap, no duplications on the submissions. They are penalizing us for, over submitting. So we can't over submit. We have to be exact on the numbers. And then number 12 is 12 up to now 19. This is the proposal itself. So we submit the names, the roles, and letters of collaboration of associates here. So we have to determine our associates. They need to be on board, but we need letters from them to confirm that they're on board. So that will be submitted in a folder here. Then that was 12. So 13 is we need to type in contractor lists and compliance strategy with our contractors. Who are they? And we need to list them in a way that is detailed to suggest what is their role and what value do they bring to the project. Number 14 is regional approach. We need to type in the regional approach and outline it here. So the regional approach, the main thing is that it must be equally weighted. It must impact on policy. And we need to see what problems we are tackling in both, let's say, regions or across the region, so Ethiopia and Kenya, uniquely, I suppose. And in some cases, there might be common problems, but we need to be, this is where we document it. This is just a Google document, actually, where we go in and type in what is our strategy for regional, what is our regional strategy for the research. And then number 15 is an eligible project definition. We need to type in project overview and relevancy statement here. Okay, so it's fairly standard, I think. Once we know what we're doing, then we can type this in. We need to be targeted. We need to be relevant, of course, which obviously means that we're constructively aligned to the objectives of the call. Then coming down to number 16 is research plan, including methodology. We need to type in our research draft or plan approach here. That's our stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 research design. Again, it's just a Google Doc which we type in. We are co-authoring, so all of us come in and suggest our ideas. And then we have number 17, which is the project schedule. I suppose once 16 is done, at least, we can start thinking of how we would schedule this within the time frame of the project. I heard Gatune saying that it is 18 months, and that means our project schedule should be able to have milestone events and activities over the 18 months that would reflect now what we're saying we're going to do. So this is a Gantt chart, really, and we can develop it under this one here. This is a Google Doc as well. I might change it to a Google slide, maybe that might be better. And then here we type in the evaluation criteria. Again, I've not put the link, but I'll put this link as a Google Doc. Type in the evaluation criteria we'll use to evaluate the outcomes. We need to align the project design with the EDUFI evaluation criteria, the one that Elizabeth was talking about. So once we align, of course, we're compliant. So we need to make sure that this is done. I'll put the link for this here so that we have something that's aligned to what they're asking for. And our proposal should be consistent with that. Oh, the link is here, sorry. The link is here, it's just a page partition in the way, but that's the link for it. Okay, then we come to this last one, which is second last one, budgeting. This is how we need to put a budget breakdown on how the money will be spent. They're saying that we need to develop a budget that aligns to EDUFI's grant financing terms, 90% and 10% co-financing. So that we need to be clear on. What can we co-finance and how are we breaking down the whole thing? And finally, we need to complete a reviewed and compiled document here. This compilation can be done by Prof. Gatune as the lead or representing the lead, just to make sure that we have, a document that is somehow consistent, cohesive. I think someone had spoken about this. He needs to compile it finally. So with all this input, he'll be able to pick out a language and a theme that we can run with that would represent our proposal. Okay, and the format, of course, as well, format. And then finally, submission. So once submission is done, we just put it over here, it's done. That's the end. So they're quite a number. It's like 21, or let's say 19 different submissions that are needed for this application. And this document has been designed to capture all of them. So if we can go through it in relation now to these concept notes that we're discussing, it then allows us to co-author the project together, although it's done in different chunks, but the chunking helps to simplify it. Otherwise, it's fairly complex. But chunking it in this way and allowing for us to all come in and weigh in on the different sections would probably result in something that is consensus driven, at least something that works and reflects all our ideas and experience. Any questions on this or any comments? Anything you'd like to add on what we're talking about now? Feel free. Yeah, I can see here a comment from Elizabeth. She says that this is very helpful. So please make sure that this table is sent to our financial director, Augustina, and that's her email. So let me just copy this. Okay. And she will ensure all documents are prepared for Orbrial. Okay. All right then. So I'll copy that.
Thanks for that. No, maybe just to comment. Obviously for the project proposal itself, you'll be receiving feedback from myself, from Kibrom, and from Apio, all three of us on the call today. But when it comes to the documents that are needed, like declaration of honor and these types of submission documents that, or the, some of the budget planning documents, etc. My colleague Agustina will be providing those. So I just wanted to make sure you also have her contact information. But I think this table is helpful. Who will be the centralizing all of this? Will it be Julius?
No, it will be not Julius. It will be Gatune, Prof. Gatune.
Gatune.
Yeah, Gatune. So he's
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Understood. Okay. So if we have any doubts, we'll go to him directly, and he's the one who will be bothering us to send things if we don't do it on time, basically.
Yeah. Or even, I think that one might be Karanja, who is
Karanja. Okay, good.
who's bothering people. Yeah.
Good. No, please bother away. I welcome it.
All right. So what we've done is we put these side dates on the side just to guide you so that we don't lose time. We want to try to submit by 17th. This is a week before the deadline date, but it's just a guide. I mean, of course, if you're a couple of days off, it's not a crime, but we shouldn't be too far off these dates because there's some codependency on them. So it's just to help us to have a working time frame. But if we find that it's not realistic, for example, some of these may take longer, we can always adjust this time frame so that the whoever is following up, coordinating, that's Karanja, he can know that we can give this a bit more time. That would be a comment I'd make on this column. Yeah, feel free. I mean, thanks for your input, Elizabeth. I think that's also very helpful to see that you're very committed. I can see here Abi saying that from where are the documents required are expected. So from where are the documents required are expected. Can we submit documents from our university or the Ministry of Education? Yeah, I think so. But you can see the nature on the side here is a description on exactly what you need to submit, giving you a reason why. So I think as long as it meets the requirement or expectation of EDUFI, it can come from any source that's appropriate. Yeah, that's how I'd answer this question, Abi. But feel free to ask verbally if I'm not answering or understanding you well.
That's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Martin,
Yes.
I think there's some that have a kind of a format like the CVs. Now I don't know whether you have to put that format here because the CV requirement are a bit descriptive, what they want,
Okay.
the information and all that. So maybe you can map them out and have a clear format so that people just fill in.
Oh, I see what you mean. So we try to harmonize the CVs so that they're kind of similar in the way in which they're represented, something like that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I didn't see a format on the call, but if we know about an EDUFI preferred CV format, maybe we can ask. I'm simply asking. Maybe there's a way in which we should write the CVs, which would focus it for this.
No. Actually, what I'm saying, I think there are details there. If you read the call, the way they wanted it to appear.
Okay.
I'll read it. And even the content. The content in terms of, they also talked about papers. I think you can check out.
Okay. Yeah, it's 2 pages.
Yeah, they talked about CVs.
And 1 page of references. I think it's a 3-page CV. Although I don't think they said they said what should be in that CV. Just said it must be 1 page to publications and 2 pages. It just should be very short CVs actually, because CVs can run into various pages. When it's getting a 2-pager, and one relevant publications.
All right.
Again, it's going to be we have to be what we emphasize, because again, they are going to use these CVs to select. That's very important in what is highlighted and the kind of publication that are highlighted.
Okay.
And it also depends on what mix of skills are we looking for to accomplish this exercise.
So do we standardize CVs and have a template to fill in the way Karanja has proposed? Or should we just leave people to submit 3-page CVs based on this criteria?
No, let's standardize. Let's just have CVs that are similar.
Okay. So I'll put up a template guided by this paragraph. This is the paragraph here. Okay.
That's it, because you need to capture qualifications, you need to capture experience, because that's what a CV does basically. Say, okay, you are qualified and you have done this kind of relevant experiences, and then the publication support part of that, but also the kind of things that you have done. So
right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so I think then we've gone through it. We've had a good meeting. Let me hand it over to you, Karanja, or anyone who might want to just suggest any other business, and we can close. I know people must be tired.
Yeah, I think now I think we are there. I think we should not take more time, but definitely we need a way forward now. I think Prof. Gatune, you'll be giving us a way forward.
Yeah. Okay. What I'm proposing, maybe we just find some time, me and Martin, try to further do some, to come up with one harmonized proposal, not even a concept, start putting together something that can say a framework, just says, at least we can now see some of the objective, we can put some of the literature and also add, because there are also other people here who are experts in education, where we are missing things people can add. But we start putting a framework because I think that tries to capture what has been captured here and there and in the concept notes, so that we now move from concept note to an actual proposal document. And I think what we can do, maybe Martin, is first of all to go to the EDUFI, the template. Because you go to online, I think Elizabeth had demonstrated the other day, because we will feel it online, isn't it? So question is just to go and get the topics and put them now, and we start writing it now in paper, then it will be transferred online. I think later you'll have to upload it online. But we can now start putting it in that format that will be expected as we enter. There is a format, isn't it?
Yeah, there is. This one is trying to align to that format. But what we can do, we can start filling in some of the Google Docs here so that people can see, and then they can also add their opinion or at least their ideas, so that it's a collective document.
The actual proposal, we just take the main topics. We just write like we are submitting it as as just the way you submit a document.
Yes.
We just write it, then we will cut and paste once we are entering it online.
Yeah.
But for now, so that you have a complete document, because these are the other attachments that go with it.
I just want to be clear, Prof. It's both. It's the other attachments are here in folders, but we have also tried to capture information that people might want to submit to the proposal. So some of these are actually Google Docs, like this one, the schedule, for example, or even the budget breakdown. And the two countries, we may not have oversight. For example, I would not have oversight of, let's say, Ethiopia, and they would now have a strategy that might suit their environment. We need to capture it. So I thought, yes, you're correct. We write it, but as far as possible, let's start off here so that we get everybody's input, and then it finally comes onto your desk actually, and we can sit together and see how we can compile. I hope it's okay, because that way we're trying to figure out how can we get everyone involved as far as possible for equal ownership. And then that's the start only, but we can start by putting in suggestions here, and then we compile it at the end. It's tricky, but if we are so many, yes.
What I have with when you have so many documents, you don't see the picture. You don't see something in totality. You just tend to see bits and pieces.
Yeah, true.
And you can get lost in navigating. To read about him, you read this document.
True.
The other thing you read there. True. So I'm just saying, at least for once, just have a simple document, then we'll break it and fill it. I don't know what other people think, because
sure.
Most people are used to just reading a whole document, but it's just everything is in one place and you just see it. You can print it out and just go and read it on the side.
True.
As I've documented.
Yeah, I can see someone's writing here. Yeah. Well, we're trying to chunk it anyway. I think chunking simplifies, but it doesn't stop the other document from being written. We can still write a full document,
okay.
Prof.
But it's fine anyway. Let's leave it that. I'll try to put something.
I think there's a good way. I think what Prof. Gatune is is suggesting. You see, because of the time frame that we have, and already now people have put their ideas. If you forwarded that document that people can input, I think it can be good because that chunking sometimes might take a long time to conceptualize. So if, for example, the two of you can come up with that document, then of course now we tighten and we add up. I think it can be something, because already now the idea is out, Martin, rather than just collecting views again, which would take a longer time. So if we can have a flowing document, then it would be easier for us now to sit down and input.
Yeah. Okay. We can still work on it. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah. The only thing I don't know. Abby had a suggestion which I thought also. If they're coming, because what your team misses is one thing. I think the teacher aspect, and that's why I was thinking Nyonje and Abby, both of them must be somewhere at the periphery there, just to ensure at least the whole aspect of the teacher is not lost, because it has to be there from A to Z of it. I don't know what Prof. Nyonje or Abby would say to that.
Sorry, I think I was trying to do something and I saw some marks on the document. But this is what I'm saying. I think you've guided Martin and Gatune can try to maybe conceptualize the whole, and then we could also just go through and see that it's aligned to teacher development. I think you've guided. Let them just go through, develop, and then we will be following. We are actually be following and be able to see whether the whole proposal is aligned. Yeah.
I think that's better. That's better. I think that's good. All of us now we shall be on it. So, Prof, I think that's it. You tell us when to expect the draft, then we be ready for it.
Yeah. So,
Prof. Gatune.
Yeah, so we'll work. Just try to say, maybe let's try to see. We have another meeting when we try to have something. Maybe between now and Monday, just have some draft. I don't know.
okay.
Okay. So we can have a meeting on let's say Wednesday. It will be on 13th.
Okay.
So maybe a time like this at 8.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a comment there. We'll be happy to provide a final rate to ensure. Yeah, I think Elizabeth is offering to do something important at the end. Yeah. So, but of course, the rest of us should also be working on all those other requirements. So this table, Martin, is very critical. What you need to do is to refine it and ensure that whatever has a template, it has what we just get into it and start filling up so that we can also be doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No worries.
So when do we expect a refined table so that we can also, it can also be sent out to the Obril tomorrow?
By tomorrow.
Good.
By tomorrow morning. So the document is done, just corrections. So I'll correct where there's missing links and I'll add on the template.
Okay.
So by tomorrow morning it will be ready.
Very well. So I think we shall share with the higher Kibrom will get it so that he shares to the financial guy. So that's it, guys. I think we can end it at this point. Let's target to have our next meeting on Wednesday at a time like this at 8 p.m. So we are glad. Maybe someone with a final word. Elizabeth, you want to say something?
No, just to say that I think you've created an excellent framework for taking this forward in a short amount of time. Very structured. I appreciate that. And there will be questions that arise as we get going. So I think the idea of setting another meeting date is critical. And I think it's also important not to have too many hands on the applications at one time, because then we have to deal sometimes with stylistic incoherencies. And so I think you can filter contributions in, but then probably we should just have one or two individuals who are actually working on the final proposal text itself. And I'm talking about the actual methodological proposal. Obviously, the other documents that each partner has to input on behalf of their institution and the CVs is different. So that's just a bit of a tip I have, and particularly as we're trying to do this in a short amount of time. But that's all. Obriel's delighted to accompany this process. And if you need any help from us at any stage, also on the budgeting stage, I would offer our assistance with budgeting if you think that's needed.
So if I get it right, Elizabeth, then why don't we have it this way, that the document comes from Prof. Gatune and Martin by Monday. The team of Abi and Professor Nyonje looks at it, then sends it to you guys, so that by Wednesday we have a kind of a rolling document. Is that okay?
That sounds good.
That's okay.
So clear? Is it clear that way, Prof. Nyonje? By Monday, the document comes to you together with Abi, and of course after that, now it goes to Elizabeth, maybe by Tuesday evening. So by Wednesday we look at a complete document. Is that okay, Prof. Nyonje?
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we have a roadmap. So guys, I want to wish you a good evening, and it's glad that you all came. We are happy. See you then.
Can I give apologies
Yeah,
for Prof. Opata? She had told me that she will not attend this meeting. I didn't remember earlier, but I should have said. Yeah.
How are you going to brief her? You know, she has missed.
Yeah. We'll write
So-
for minutes. I'll supply.
No, Karanja, you don't have to worry. I think where I am, she is not far. I'll even meet her tomorrow morning.
Very well. Thank you, guys, and have a good night and a good time where you are. Thank you so much, and bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.